continue to witness these scenes of looting and criminality, there are calls for government to address poverty and inequality. There have also been calls to review the decision to suspend the top-up to existing grants and COVID social relief of distress grants. Nontsikelelo Mpulo, Head of Communications for Section 27, joins us now to talk about this. Nontsikelelo, good evening and thank you very much for your time. Are we oversimplifying the situation by just calling it civil unrest because of poverty and hunger? Yes, there is poverty and hunger, but do you suspect there is a coordinated effort in this to do something even more sinister?
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to the viewers. Listen, the situation started out as ostensibly something that had been orchestrated out of KZN, but I think that it has mushroomed into something that has been completely out of control. I think that it's driven essentially by the years of inequality and the socio-economic situation in South Africa. This unrest has been inevitable in the context of the extreme levels of poverty and inequality that are evident everywhere and have been made worse by the COVID pandemic.
Public safety and containing public safety is one element, economic relief, and as you put it, one of the measures. But it does seem that we need to be doing more just also to protect our economy, because there are senses of a economic sabotage here that is going on.
Well, Thabo, from our perspective as an organization that works in the public interest and is about rule of law, we are keen that, we are the immediate measures that the government has put in place to contain rule of law, to make sure that the civil unrest is quelled, we welcome them. However, we think that this is a short-term solution and we need to be looking at the longer-term solutions in order to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We are concerned that, as the SANDF is being deployed, 25,000 members are now going to be deployed, that we don't see the excessive use of force that occurred in the earlier lockdown. And so we are calling for accountability and transparency in the operations around peace and security in the immediate moment. But in the long term, we want to look at addressing the socio-economic factors. I mean, we have seen extreme levels of poverty and an escalation in hunger. Recently, the Newzroom, which is the National Income Dynamic Survey, has announced that there are 10 million people who are hungry and 3 million children in households that are affected by hunger in the latest wave of their research. And that nationally, women are shielding child hunger, so they're not eating. And in order to shield their children. And that's why you see women are participating in the looting. But this is because there is food insecurity.
How do we roll back and pull back on the tide of huge inequality that we are seeing in the country, but also the degrees of hunger and vulnerability that, of course, the criminal elements are now taking advantage of in our communities, especially in this time of this lockdown?
You see, so you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Thabo, in that we have been calling since the beginning of the lockdown for the income grant to be increased from 350 Rand to 585 Rand. And we will continue to call for that because that kind of level of security helps to fill the bellies of children. And that's what we're concerned with. One of the things that that Section 27 has been working on is the National School Nutrition Program, where we've been calling for government to feed the 9.5 million children who are eligible for this feeding scheme. And they haven't managed to reach all 9.5 million. And in fact, we took them to court last year. They have said that they are about 1.5 million people short, or children short, that they are reaching now. And so what we're calling for now is the comprehensive implementation of the National School Nutrition Program. And in order to address the economic activity to make sure that our economy bounces back, we absolutely have to be vaccinating people at a much more rapid rate. Of course, the civil unrest has had an impact on the rollout of our vaccination program, but we need to recover and escalate this so that we can make sure that people are able to go back to work when we start rebuilding our country.
All right, Nontsikelelo Mpulo, appreciate your time and thank you for joining us tonight on In Focus. Head of Communications for Section 27, calling for more relief, but also taking care of schools, feeding nutrition program, plus ensuring that the vaccination program continues. You're seeing live